Why would you hang a painting like this on your wall?
Well, it's the historical society, bro. They have to hang it up, you know?
Yeah. Oh, well, we gotta suffer just because some old dude who looks like Meryl Streep chopped down a cherry tree like 10 million years ago?
This is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Fellas, how you doing? A couple of flagons of ale for you. So I just want to say we love what you're doing over here.
And this is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in 1776. In the 11th episode of the show's 4th season, titled The Gang Cracks the Liberty Bell, the gang takes their signature style of abrasive bantering and terrible decision-making skills back to the time of the American Revolution. This is arguably the worst episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is weird because it occurs in the same season as arguably two of the best episodes of It's Always Sunny, in The Nightman Cometh and The Gang Solves the Gas Crisis.
Wild card, bitches!
Despite the cast's ability to deliver laughs at the right time, The Gang Cracks the Liberty Bell just never really comes together, and it's because it fails to do what makes the show so great. Before we go any further, be sure to like and subscribe to Nerdstalgic if you haven't done so already. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is currently the longest-running live-action American sitcom of all time. The show began back in 2005 as an $80 pilot, and since then has become a cultural staple of American comedy. The show features an ensemble cast of morally bankrupt bar owners who cheat and manipulate pretty much every single person they come into contact with. In 2008, It's Always Sunny was in the middle of its 4th season and was still in the process of experimenting with its formula for success. During these experimental periods of television shows, writers began to take some risks by pushing the boundaries of what they can deliver to the audience without losing them entirely. Testing the boundaries in this way isn't always done with the intent of breaking them. Sometimes it's just to see where these boundaries are, so they can avoid breaking them in the future. The Gang Cracks the Liberty Bell imagines Charlie, Frank, Mac, Dennis, and Dee back in Philadelphia during the beginnings of the American Revolution as a reenactment of an elaborate con. Mac, Charlie, and Dennis are telling this completely fabricated historical inaccuracy to a city official in an attempt to get Patty's Pub acknowledged as a historical landmark. This is the first problem with this episode. You could argue that Glenn Howerton, Charlie Day, and Rog McElhenney are three of the funniest writers working in television. The characters that these three actors portray on the show are not hilarious writers, they are morally bankrupt idiots. Since this episode is essentially being written by Dennis Reynolds, Charlie Kelly, and Mac, it plays out as if it were written by three morally bankrupt idiots. This would be fine if the episode somehow took an occasional moment to remind us that this is a reenactment of a fictional yarn being spun by the guys, which leads us to the second problem. It never does. Imagine comedy as a big balloon being filled with helium. If we don't tether that balloon to something real, it will float off into the sky until it destroys itself. When you create a rather large comedic premise, you need something equally strong with which to anchor your idea. This episode never really tethers itself to anything real. It just presents its fictional premise and lets go until the final 30 seconds when we cut back to what is happening in the real world. While this closing moment is undoubtedly funny, it just doesn't really achieve the desired effect. There was a missed opportunity here to build a heightening pattern of cutaways that would have likely helped keep the insane premise in perspective. Drunk History is an example of a show that uses these types of real-world cutaways to its advantage. These moments allow us to break from the action and take a breath in the real world before diving back into the premise. Resting your comedy is an essential pacing tool, and when utilized correctly, it delivers some fantastic results.
Oh, this is a great drink. They thought that it made them like invigorated and aware. People are basically drinking little cocaine soda.
The Gang Cracks the Liberty Bell never comes up for air. It just, well, it drowns itself. The third way in which this episode fails is that it doesn't treat the time period with any reverence. This is likely an undesired hangover effect from problem number 1. We can never truly immerse ourselves into this world of 1776 Sunny because this episode only steps halfway into it. It's Always Sunny's comedy is driven through unmitigated commitment, but in this episode, everything feels like it's half measure. Instead of playing toward the drama and seriousness of the American Revolution and putting our ridiculous characters inside of it, this episode plays to an incredibly esoteric joke that the writers are essentially telling to themselves. The dialogue shifts between half-assed version of 18th century English in one moment.
Pardon me, good sirs, but which of you gentlemen happens to be the highest-ranking military officer here?
And calling British soldiers bro in the next.
Bro, it's 1776. They don't have any rights. You can just take them and force them to do whatever you want.
This is undoubtedly intentional, but without anchoring it back to the three guys telling this story from time to time, it doesn't really land in the intended way. The thing that makes It's Always Sunny's characters pop is the seriousness of the real world, which leads us to the fourth and final issue with this episode. We're never really emotionally invested enough to care about what's going on. The writers never tell us exactly why we as an audience should care about this story. We don't get that signature It's Always Sunny cold open at the top of this episode. That absolutely fundamental piece of puzzle is completely absent from The Gang Cracks the Liberty Bell. Without it, we never have any understanding of what's at stake or why it's important. The only real mention of any real-world stakes comes with a sort of throwaway line from Dennis, where he states that he wants to get the bar recognized as a historical landmark so people can come and get smashed.
You know, they can come by, soak up some history, do some shots, get blasted.
This episode is so lost in its own premise that it ends with the main characters setting up the premise again.
So you know what? Sit back, get comfortable. This is gonna take a little longer this time. Okay, you ready?
It starts the same.
Okay.
The year was 1776.
There's no rhyming, no connections, none of that tight and concise writing that comes together in the final moments of any great It's Always Sunny episode. It just sort of ends exactly where it starts, and in turn, makes us feel like our characters have effectively gone nowhere. The Gang Cracks the Liberty Bell is arguably the weakest episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia to date. At times, this episode feels like it's from an entirely different series. It's one thing to take risks with the way you structure your television show, but completely eradicating every successful element of your show goes well beyond just taking a risk and into the realm of self-destruction.
Would you like a spot of tea? You? Yes!
On paper, taking the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and putting them in a different time period sounds like it would be a home run. But telling this story through the lens of a misinformed con in process removes the structure of what makes It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia so successful. It's Always Sunny is at its best when it challenges its stunted and arguably reprehensible cast of characters to exist in the real world, and in turn, these characters are forced to face real-world consequences for their actions. When you put these ridiculous characters into an equally ridiculous environment, it becomes almost impossible for anything to really stand out. This episode is all premise and no structure. The end results in something that feels about as flat as Mac's wooden teeth.
Yeah, well, all the Patriots are doing it, including Washington, which is why it makes sense, okay, if we're going undercover.
Writing long-form comedy is like cooking a really fancy dinner. You have to apply the right techniques at the right times to deliver the desired result. You need to know when to apply the heat and when to let the things rest. And most importantly, you need a balance of flavors. If you just pile the same ingredient on top of itself, the odds are that you're going to be left with something that tastes terrible and looks like a mess. The key ingredient in this recipe is reality. Comedy craves reality. The absurd needs to be treated as if it were completely normal. And in turn, the normal needs to be treated as if it were completely absurd. This episode does neither, and instead it piles absurdity on top of absurdity, and the result is that nothing stands out. This episode just sort of forces itself to blend into its own weirdness until we can't really see what's funny anymore. When everything is crazy, craziness just becomes normal, and normal is a place where comedy goes to die. Hey, that's it for today's episode. Don't forget to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. You may see a couple of links floating around in the player window. Feel free to click on one of those if you'd like to stick around. And hey, thanks for watching Nerdstalgic.